Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's FBC NFL Sunday, and it's Super Bowl Sunday. That's right. It's the last episode of this regular season, and we got the Chiefs and the Eagles going today at 6:30, 6:45, whatever the hell the starting time is. I don't know. It's a long time from right now. I mean, it seems like it's close, but it's going to be forever from now. But no, we want to welcome everyone in. We've obviously enjoyed doing this each and every Sunday, building up to obviously the ultimate Sunday, which is Super Bowl Sunday. The Chiefs in their third Super Bowl in 4 years. And of course, both the Eagles and the Chiefs are seeking their second Super Bowl title in the last, 5 seasons, technically. So it's going to be a pretty interesting matchup. I'm pretty excited for it. And hopefully this goes down as one of the classics because I really think it would be a shame if this was a super dud.
It's kind of been talked about, I think, a lot with the betting side of things, and I know we'll kind of get to that later on. But it just feels like this should be a high scoring game going into it. So hopefully that kind of lives up to the hype on each side. But yeah, it feels like a week where it was kind of flying by, I think, for the most part, until about Friday night. Now it just seems like it's taken kind of a snail's pace to really get to this game. So hopefully it's one where we see a lot of points, a lot of exciting moments, and yeah, two really good teams that I think both had 6 All-Pros. Both were 16-3 combined record this season, including the playoffs. Both have a Kelsey brother, so it's a lot of similarities, but two teams that are kind of built and play style a little bit differently. So really interested to see how those two teams kind of adjust against one another.
Yeah, and look, I mean, both these teams have pretty strong defenses. I think Kansas City's is vastly underrated, but really the name of the game in this league is offense, and both teams have legit elite offenses, and they do it a little bit differently. Obviously Kansas City's offense is more predicated on set plays and getting players open and yards after the catch and maximizing every possession that they have, which again is something that makes you a very elite team. The Eagles, it's a lot of Jalen Hurts and it's a lot of rushing through Jalen Hurts and, of course, everyone else. So it's going to be interesting to see how each offense decides to attack, if they're going to try to play their game or which team might try to, might get a little skittish or try to change things up to I don't know, throw a wrinkle into the plan or whatever. But to me, and I said this before we got on the air, the biggest thing for me, and if I'm watching this game and I'm saying, okay, I think the Eagles' defensive line could cause trouble for the tackles in particular for the Chiefs. They have a phenomenal interior offensive line, so that's going to be a little bit more difficult. But the point is, if they can put pressure on the tackles, it's gonna loosen up that interior, and I think might put a little bit too much pressure on this team. And that's a problem because once you start disrupting what the Chiefs do, their timing and everything, then you might have a repeat of Super Bowl 55, which I know you and every other Chiefs fan in the world does not want to happen. So I'll ask you, how do the Chiefs prevent just an overall underwhelming performance by the tackles, and not just because they may be whatever. I think it would be primarily based on what the Eagles do. So how do the Chiefs combat that, or how do they prevent the Eagles from really doing what they do well?
Yeah, I kind of see this being a game where Andy Reid, I think, really dives into his bag of tricks, and I think we really saw the run game against the Bengals kind of not really show a lot of versatility, I guess, with the play calling. I think it was very vanilla, kind of just single back handoffs, not a lot of stretching it to the outside. So I think you could see a lot of jet sweeps, a lot of motion in this one from the run game, but the patented Andy Reid screen game, I think that's going to be something that this team uses, obviously kind of an extension of the run game. But I think you just kind of look at this newer wide receiver core that they have this season compared to last couple of years. I think it's a lot more of a smarter group, so to speak. And I think they just know how to, kind of create those extra yards after the catch when maybe not a lot is there. So I can see the screen game and kind of that run game going more to the outside edges, in terms of just in addition to the drop back pass game. I think that's going to be the huge thing with Andy Reid kind of getting into his bag of tricks and really maybe trying to neutralize that speed of the Eagles defensive ends.
I was going to say, so how early do you think we're going to see our first like trick play, so to speak? Like whether it's a double pass or some sort of, I don't know, merry-go-round little pre-formation, type thing. How long? Maybe first quarter, second quarter? Because look, I agree with you. I think you're going to see if the Chiefs are going to have success, this is going to be a Andy Reid masterclass. So how early are we going to see something like that?
Yeah, I think it almost kind of depends too on the down and distance. I think the most likely you can kind of see it is in the red zone or at least in the opponent's side of the field. So I would kind of say maybe first half, but maybe I'd lean more second quarter. I think I could see the Chiefs compared to the Eagles maybe being a team that likes to feel it out a little bit more. Where I could see kind of Philly taking their shots early, so to speak. So I would kind of say maybe second quarter would be the earliest that I would kind of expect anything like that.
All right, so these are according to FanDuel. I'm looking at the FanDuel sportsbook. These are the updated MVP, Super Bowl MVP odds. Patrick Mahomes plus 130, Jalen Hurts plus 145, Travis Kelce still a delicious plus 1400. I mean, I'm just saying. Like, that's free money right there. I'm anyone wanting to go out and put money on it, I might do it. Hard Rock's like 25 minutes from where I am right now. I might rush over there before the game. AJ Brown plus 2,500, Miles Sanders plus 2,500 as well. But yeah, I mean, no surprise. Obviously, the two quarterbacks are the top two, favorites for the Super Bowl MVP. It's a quarterback-driven league. They opened, a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago now, tied with the same odds, but obviously Patrick separated himself. But like I said before, and we talked about this before, because the Travis Kelce odds, like I said, are great. He's the third best odds, obviously. And if the Chiefs are going to win this game, obviously Patrick Mahomes is going to have to play very well. But I feel like the bulk of him playing well is going to be him getting the ball to Travis Kelce, which, I mean, again, I would do that too if I was Patrick Mahomes, because Travis Kelce is great. The problem is, I think a 12, 13 catch, maybe 2 touchdown performance from Travis Kelce, who very well could get that, because this year more than any, he's been leaned on quite a bit when this offense can't, stay consistent. And that right there, I think, gets him a possible Super Bowl MVP. So like I said, at plus 1,400, folks, you want some free money, go out there and, put some money on Travis Kelce. But if he doesn't win, just kind of forget that I encourage you to do so.
It's really interesting. I think when you kind of look back at last year's matchup between Kansas City and Philadelphia, the Eagles really sat back in soft zones all day too. I mean, I think with what defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon's done, I don't expect that obviously to be the case. And what they've shown lately, they really do a good job at kind of disguising who they're going to double, and I think who the kind of defensive back or linebacker is going to come in with an occasional zone blitz. So I think that's what's going to be interesting to see how much they double Kelce, because they really don't do it. I don't think a lot, but when they do, I think they're probably the most physical group that Kansas City's probably gone up against this season.
Yeah, look, if you're Philadelphia, I feel like you have to go into this game and say you got to do everything you can to stop Travis Kelce, and if someone else beats you, hats off to them, because they have good play. Like there's a weird. Some people think the Chiefs receivers suck. Some people think they're great. They're a little underrated. I think they have some very. I mean, Juju is a good player. I mean, you have some really good players across that offense. Certainly, you're missing a top tier wideout like you had in Tyreek Hill, but again, I mean, Travis Kelce is, for all intents and purposes, a wide receiver. I mean, that's his biggest impact and most, primary role. So I think they have a good group. I just think that when you take Travis Kelce out of the mix, the offense becomes just a lot more and this is all relative to Kansas City's offense, pedestrian, like not
Mhm.
average pedestrian, but pedestrian for Kansas City. And
Right.
I think the Eagles, because we've seen other teams decide not to do this, and we've seen what happens. Cincinnati didn't bother really doing anything creative with Travis Kelce. Neither did Buffalo. They just kind of relied on trying to do what they do, and well, what they did was leave him wide open with no defender around him and allowed him to do what he wanted to do. So the Eagles, like I said, they got to attack Travis Kelce, double him every single play, make sure that he is the focus. Don't worry about anyone else. I mean, again, if Tony's going to beat you, so be it. If
Right.
Juju's going to get a big pass, so be it. But to me, you gotta double and in some cases triple Travis Kelce. Whatever you have to do, make sure that he has nothing but a 5 catch, 50 something yard performance and
Mhm.
0 touchdowns. Because if that happens, the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl. And I don't see any other way they couldn't.
I can't remember. I want to say it was Michael Lombardi was he was on the Pat McAfee show. I think it was Friday, and I think one good point he kind of made about trying to double Kelsey. What makes it so difficult and kind of what stresses out defenses the most is how much he kind of aligns out wide, kind of at an X position too. So that's something that's going to be fascinating to see how much they really split Kelsey out wide and let him motion out, because I think that's where a lot of teams kind of get really scared against Kansas City is even with not having that speed of Tyreek Hill, you have a lot of guys that can still impact the game after the catch with quickness. I think MVS, we saw some of that. He might be a player where not necessarily going to be consistent in the regular season, but maybe a playoff X
Mhm.
factor for this team. And that's just an area that I think I would kind of watch for doubling Kelsey, is just how much he's out wide and not necessarily close to the set at the offensive line.
Yeah, and again, like I said, if if MVS is going to beat me, so be it. Me
Right.
as in the Eagles, if I were the Eagles, but so that's what I'm living with. So to your point, yeah, that's exactly what it is. You spread him out wide. He starts doing those little zigzag routes in the middle of the field. All of a sudden, he breaks off his linebacker who's chasing him, and boom, there you go, catch, run after the catch. And to your point, like I said, people some people want to sit here and say this Kansas City Chiefs team sucks, or the wide receivers suck, or they're underrated or overrated. What blah blah blah. They led the league, or at least they were top like 2 or 3 in the league in yards after the catch per
Right.
catch. Obviously, in totality, they had the most yards after the catch all season. But this team just that's what they did. So they created a lot of offense with their legs. So to your point, MVS and Juju Smith Schuster and all these guys, they don't get the credit, but they're very dangerous with the ball in their hands if they can get the ball in their hands. So, again, this Eagles team is going to have their hands full, but they've been able to maintain or keep calm some lesser quarterbacked teams.
Hmm.
So this is certainly not going to be the same as what they've seen. However, on the flip side, they've absolutely manhandled some pretty good defenses, and I think that might be also a concern for what I think is a very underrated Chiefs defense. I just don't know if they're going to be able to contain both Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and the like, and Miles Sanders, because they can really attack you from all positions. So, from your point of view, how do the Chiefs attack the Eagles defensively?
Yeah, I think what I kind of envision Spagnuolo doing, at least early on, maybe first, second quarter. I really think he's going to try to stack the line of scrimmage, kind of put the at least one or two linebackers down in the A or B gaps. I think we saw Nick Bolton in the AFC Championship game kind of do this a lot, but most of the time he would kind of drop back out. So maybe they kind of do that with Bolton again and kind of spy Jalen Hurts, and maybe the other linebacker just kind of being the man that has to account for Miles Sanders or Kenneth Gainwell, whatever running back that is. So I really think he'll try to stack the box early enough and then take your chances one-on-one in coverage. Just as a team that loves to play their press man coverage, and obviously added a lot of length and physicality in the draft last year with these rookie corners, but also a team that they've been in the playoffs doubling certain players here and there. I think what's interesting with the Chiefs is they kind of change up who they double every couple of snaps. Sometimes it was Jamar Chase, sometimes it was T Higgins in that AFC Championship game. So I really think he's going to kind of take his chances with that cover zero or man coverage and kind of stack the box at least in the first half before they kind of get a feel of what Philadelphia is going to try to do, in my opinion.
Now, obviously, all eyes are going to be on a lot of the Chiefs' defensive front and whether or not they can get the Jalen Hurts. So we're going to go through some of these kind of prop bets for the game. And like I said, I'm doing this just right off the FanDuel Sports book. Chiefs are over under. The number is set at 3.5. Do you think they go over or under that number today?
For what was the stat?
Sacks, yeah, total sacks.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go slightly over just because I do think Spagnuolo kind of brings some extra heat just enough, and I think it'll work just a couple times outside of maybe just winning off natural pass rush. So I'll go over on that one.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, look, they could get sacks in back-to-back plays and, real quick on one drive or something like that. So yeah, 3.5 seems like a pretty low number. So I definitely take the over on that. So I guess to flip it on the other side, let's see. They have Kansas City. Here's Philadelphia. They're only at 2.5, which seems kind of strange. Which I think that's a pretty easy over, even if it is just 3 sacks. That seems pretty easy to.
Yeah, it's Philadelphia's. I mean, what's interesting with their sack rate is I think it's gone up when they've rushed, only 3 or 4 rushers and kind of drop guys back. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of try to do what Lou Anarumo and the Bengals have done and drop more guys back into coverage. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic where they just don't bring a lot of extra pressure most of the time. But also Mahomes, for the most part, been pretty good against the blitz in his career. So maybe that's why the number's down a little bit. I would still go with the over though.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. Even a down day, I think they can at least get 3 sacks. Just because I do believe there's going to be a couple times where they kind of turn guys like Orlando Brown in circles, and then you're going to be sitting there like, oh my God, why is he even starting? But yeah, so I like that they have some Mahomes props here. So let's go through that because obviously the quarterbacks are the talk, and then we'll get to our we'll obviously get to our Super Bowl picks, MVP picks, and all that stuff. So passing yards, 292.5 over under. And look, this is the thing. 2 Super Bowl appearances, certainly a very underwhelming performance in both when you consider what his standard he has set for himself. So maybe there's a little bit of that going into your picking and choosing, but 292.5 yards. I think it's a good number because I honestly don't know. I mean, I could see 285 or something like that, a couple touchdowns, that sort of thing, especially if it plays out the way I think it does. And it's a very heavy Travis Kelce game. But what say you, 292.5 over or under?
Yeah, it's tough because I could really see Andy wanting to run the ball a little bit more than they did in the AFC Championship game. But also, I think it's just knowing that this could be a high scoring game. I just don't know how much you can live with that. So I'll go with the over, just kind of expecting this just to be that much of a shootout. I think I have to go with the over in this one.
All right. How about 1.5 touchdown passes over under?
Yeah, I'll go over there. I think I got a couple anytime touchdown scorer bets, so I'm kind of just hoping that that translates, and I'll go with the over on that one.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I can see this being a 2 touchdown game for a guy like Travis Kelce, and so yeah, I think that's a pretty easy over. Here we go, longest pass, because look, there's a lot, and obviously this includes yards after the catches and air yards or anything like that. The Chiefs offense is very, they don't do a lot of things down the field, whether it's personnel or just obviously dictating to their strengths of the players that they have. a lot of their big plays come from yards after the catch and, getting downfield. So this is an interesting one. They have the number at 38.5. Now, I don't think there's going to be a pass play where the ball's going to end up traveling that far. I just don't think the Eagles are going to allow something like this in this game. So it really comes down to, is there going to be a catch and run that goes over 38.5? And I think I'm going to take the under. I think I'm going to take the under because I just don't see the Eagles giving up a big play like that. I think the Chiefs, if they're going to have success, it's going to be, kind of slicing and dicing them up and down the field. I don't think that they're going to get a big playoff, so I'll have to say the under.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under as well. I mean, not really a whole lot to add there. I mean, you mentioned it, kind of just slicing and dicing. I mean, they're definitely a much more methodical kind of offense compared to what they used to be. So I'm right there with the under.
All right, let's shift over to Jalen Hurts, and I'm going to say they have the number at 49.5 rushing yards, over under for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'll go with the over on that one. It's so hard to not expect him to get at least more than a handful of carries from like some RPO looks, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the over on that one.
Yeah, look, and especially if and I think this is going to play out. I think the Chiefs are going to have a pretty solid day in the defensive backfield, and that's going to create opportunities for Jalen Hurts. Now that's the problem. You may have great coverage with all these receivers and locking them down, but that could create a situation where Jalen Hurts has to take off and run. So, yeah, I do like the over on this one as well. How about passing yards? We have the number. It is at 238.5. I got to go under on this one because I don't think the Chiefs, again, kind of like the Eagles, I don't think they're going to give up too many big plays. But I also think the Eagles are going to do a lot more on the ground. So 238 seems like a very high number for me. So I'm going to have to take the under.
I'm gonna go under as well. I'm trying. I can't remember the exact number, but both playoff games, I'm not even sure they top 220 from what I remember, and I just still wonder. I know it's not going to be as big of a resistance as what it probably was a couple weeks ago, but there was still sometimes NFC Championship game where you saw that shoulder injury kind of affect his accuracy. So I just don't know how many big plays, like you said, are going to be hit down the field. So I'll go with the under on that one.
All right, here's some of the fun positions to score first. Now, these are the odds, and I'm going to say them as they're ranked, or maybe they're not ranked the way that they're in order. But all right, so you have running back plus 185, wide receiver plus 200, tight end plus 310, quarterback plus 500, defense plus 1400. So I guess I'll just ask you, who do you think is going to score first? At what position, and then maybe specifically what player do you think is going to score first in this game?
Yeah, I'm really kind of looking heavy at the running backs. I mean, for the Eagles, it's pretty obvious, I think, in the red zone just how much their running game has been so successful. So I could see Miles Sanders, who's obviously had a breakout year in a contract season, really coming through there. But I think just you talked about the offensive tackles and the question marks there. I could really see Jerick McKinnon having a lot of increased snaps just with how good of a personal protector he is. I could really see him or Pacheco also getting the first one. So I kind of like running back on either side in that one.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good one. Again, I'll keep going with what I'm saying. I'll say tight end because, well, Travis Kelce might end up scoring first in this game. This could be a game where first drive Chiefs, just because I just get the feeling they'll go down first drive, score, and that'll be where we're at. So net offensive yards for the Chiefs, over under 359.5.
I'm gonna go with the over on that one. I think, yeah, we had 292 for Mahomes passing. So yeah, I think I'll go with the over on that one. Just kind of adding up those odds on kind of what we had with those earlier bets.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good number. I'll take the I'll take the under, but barely. I mean, yeah, I mean, it really could. I'll take the under just to be different. So, the Eagles actually have a higher number than the Chiefs, 366.5, and that's probably taken into account, Jalen Hurts, kind of their running ability as well. So, over under 366.5.
I'm gonna go slightly under on this one. I just there's just something I think about the Chiefs' red zone defense too right now that they're really kind of coming through with their backs against the wall. We saw that a few times in the FC Championship game, so I kind of could see that still happening a couple times in this one. So I'll go slightly under on that one.
Yeah, I'll agree with you because again, I don't think I think this is going to be a really good game. I just don't think we're going to have. I think these teams are going to have more methodical drives, so it's not going to be too much big scores and quick plays type of thing. I think both defenses are a little bit too good to allow that, and I think both offenses are very comfortable. Like I said, slicing and dicing and kind of going about it that way. So, um, let's see. Oh, okay. Here we go. Just a quick one. Run or pass. What would be the Kansas City Chiefs first play? What are you taking?
Yeah, I got to go pass. I think out
Yeah.
of the gate may not be a bomb that I could see the Eagles doing, but I think they'll let Mahomes kind of get him going, so to speak. So yeah, I'll go pass.
All right. So let's get down to it. The game, obviously, like you said, I mean, it's been a long 2 weeks. It really has. It's going to be another longer several hours from now. Whenever you're watching this, it's 11:05 right now as we're talking. So we still got 7.5 hours to go. It's just absolutely brutal. But what's your gut saying? Who wins? What's the score? And who's your Super Bowl MVP?
Yeah, my gut kind of says I really think this could be a high scoring game. I could almost see this being an overtime game, the first one we've seen with the new rules as well. I just think it's going to be tight kind of the whole way. I got Chiefs 30, Eagles 24. I just think this is as much as I think the Eagles have kind of dominated this just seems like a Chiefs team that, especially this season with kind of the changes they made and everything. And what we've seen also the last few years, I think they just know how to win these big games, kind of being battle tested this season and who they played in the playoffs. So I really like them to kind of just continue to be kind of locked in like they were at the end of that AFC Championship game. It just seems like they're so loose right now, and I just think as much as Nick Sirianni and that Eagles coaching staff has really done well and kind of throwing out these new wrinkles. I just kind of anticipate Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo kind of getting really deep into their bag of tricks with 2 weeks to prepare. So I kind of see that being the biggest difference is the coaching. And yeah, I like Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP. Winning the MVP and the Super Bowl MVP in the same season. So Chiefs 30, Eagles 24 is kind of what I see happening tonight.
Yeah, see, I have the Eagles in this game. I think again, I mean, this was a tough game to pick, kind of back and forth going against it all week. Uh, I think ultimately, like I said to start the show, I think the Eagles' defensive line is going to cause some problems for the offensive line, and it's not necessarily the interior; it's what they do to the tackles, and the ripple effect I think that's going to have across the line, whether that is having to bring Travis Kelsey into the blocking mix a bit more, which takes away from his offensive contributions, which I think are going to be key in this game. So I think that's where the margin of victory. That's where it's going to happen. That's where it's going to swing in favor of the Eagles. And in order to win, look, the Eagles are going to have to put up over 30 points, and I think 31-27 is the number that it's going to have to take. They're going to have to score. I think both teams are going to score pretty efficiently in this game. I don't think you're going to see many drives because, like I said, I think both offenses are very efficient. Neither of them are necessarily going to get the big plays. But ultimately, I do like the Eagles in this game. And kind of to what you were talking about earlier with the rushing touchdowns, I actually think Miles Sanders isn't going to end up with the Super Bowl MVP, and that's nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, but this could be a three touchdown game type of
Right.
performance for Miles Sanders, just given how I think the offensive game plan is going to play out for the Eagles, and obviously the situation for him to score. And you get 3 touchdowns, you get close to maybe 100 yards rushing, or you have a big play here or there, especially if it's a in the moment play. That should be enough to propel him to that Super Bowl MVP. Because as much as the regular season award is 99.9%. For the quarterback, there's still more of a possibility that these other offensive players, I mean, well, certainly he's going to be an offensive player, but it's more possibility that a running back, a tight end, or a wide receiver, as we've seen a few times actually in the last 2 Super Bowls, as a matter of fact. I'm sorry, not the last 2, but in last year's Super Bowl, not the year before. But Julian Edelman, not too long ago, won a Super Bowl MVP. So yeah. So I got the Eagles. You got the Chiefs. One of us is going to be right. One of us is going to be wrong. And I got a feeling I'm the one who's going to be right, or at least I'm hoping. That's what my betting slip says. I hope I am right. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Maybe we'll be back after the game. We'll see. We'll talk about it. Maybe we'll react instantly to what happened. If not, catch myself and John Sapichetti on all this next week on FBC Radio Live as we break down the Super Bowl and kind of move forward to the offseason, because sadly enough, the 2022 NFL season and Tom Brady's career, is the first time I mention him all day, is over. So thank you everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Go Eagles. Roll as I roll my eyes.